Double check. Perfect. Thank you, Haley. I really appreciate it. So welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Tech Tuesday session on Microsoft Forms. My name is Vanessa with ITS Communications, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about one of the survey tools that we use here at Cornell, a little bit about the other ones and when you might use one over the other, and then how you can access it and start using it. Before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone know I am recording today's session. So if there's something you missed that you want to go back over, or even if you want to share this later on with some of your colleagues and you all want to start using forms, I'll be sending a follow-up email afterward with a link to this recording, as well as some other support articles so that you can learn how to navigate Microsoft Forms a little better. And if you have any questions at any time during the session, I do have everyone's microphones muted just to prevent any background noises, but you can put a question at any point in the chat and I'll be stopping as much as I can to answer all of your questions. I also have Josh Gorel on the call. He is our O365 product manager. So you may see him answering questions in the chat, and he's one of our experts. So he's not just like a random person answering your questions. He's very knowledgeable about Microsoft and Forms. So let's get started. All right, so what is Forms? So basically, it's just one of the survey tools that we offer here at Weill Cornell. And you'll find once you start using Forms, if you haven't already, that it's quite easy to put a survey or a quiz together in just a few minutes and invite other people to take it and collect data. You can access a survey or a quiz in Microsoft Forms through a web browser, so on your laptop, let's say, or through a mobile device. So anybody can pull up a link or even scan a QR code, for example, and take a survey just from a mobile device. And once people take those surveys or quizzes within Forms, all the results are in real time. So you'd access your form and you'd be able to see all the results as people respond. There are some really basic visualizations in there that also help you see very quickly just how people are responding to the survey you put together. So why should you use Forms? Again, you're going to see it's so easy and quick to put one of these forms together. You could put it together in minutes, and it's mostly due to the fact that it's a pretty easy to use interface. There's just a few question types that you have to select from. There's a few customizations that you can add, but by and large, really easy to use and put together. One really nice thing about Forms that is because it's part of O365, it integrates with a lot of other Office 365 tools. You can do polls, for example, in Teams and Outlook, and that connects to your Microsoft Forms account where you can see the results. And you can also share anything that you create in Forms in Outlook or Teams very easily. All forms, once you create them, they're stored automatically in your O365 account, so you don't have to worry about having to constantly save. That data is always going to be there. And any survey data that you do collect also stays in your O365 account, and it's saved within OneDrive or SharePoint. So you can access any of your forms wherever you have internet access. You don't have to worry about, creating something, your computer crashes, you'll still be able to find it. So we have a few survey tools at Weill Cornell, and if you've been to any other Tech Tuesday that I've done, you'll know that I've done some on Qualtrics, some on Poll Everywhere, and I get questions sometimes about which is the best tool to use. One is not better than the other. It just kind of depends on what you're trying to do, and I technically use all of them. So really quickly, Microsoft Forms, like I said, it's really quick to just throw up a survey in a few minutes. If you're in a meeting and somebody's like, oh, we need to get feedback on XYZ, Microsoft Forms might be the perfect solution if it's just a very basic inquiry that you want to send out. There are not as many question types as a tool like Qualtrics, for example, but if you don't need so many bells and whistles, Microsoft Forms is perfect for you. You can also do something really cool in Microsoft Forms that you can't do in some of the other tools, which is give feedback for quizzes. So I'll show you that a little later on during the demonstration. But when you have a quiz, you can actually make comments on, let's say, a wrong answer, saying why that person got the answer wrong and why this one was the better answer once they've already submitted the survey. So you can add comments and things like that, which I think are really cool. And of course, there's that O365 integration, which you're not going to really get in some of the other tools that we have here. So if that's important to you, Microsoft Forms is the right way to go. There's also Poll Everywhere. So Microsoft Forms does have polling features, and it has some things that are a little similar to Poll Everywhere, although Poll Everywhere really is designed for in the moment audience engagement. So if you're giving a presentation and you want that audience engagement, you want to capture their attention, that is what Poll Everywhere is perfect for. You'll throw up and integrate polls on your PowerPoint slides, and they'll see the feedback right there on the screen as they're answering. Now, again, there's a little bit of that in Microsoft Forms, but you might find that Poll Everywhere is a little more robust. It has more question types that you can use for real-time polling. And there is some team building feature in there that is really cool. It's competition mode. So if you're interested in something like that, Poll Everywhere is the way to go. And then, of course, there is Qualtrics. This is like, if you want every bell and whistle imaginable, that's what Qualtrics is good for. It's got a ton of question types. It's really good for lengthier studies, particularly research surveys are used a lot, or Qualtrics is used a lot for those. There's a lot of complicated branching. You've got workflows. There's just really a ton. And if that's what you want, Qualtrics is great. But if you don't need all of that, again, Microsoft Forms is a great, great option to put your survey together. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned is REDCap, and that comes up when we talk about HIPAA. So is Microsoft Forms HIPAA compliant? So there's not an easy answer. The short answer is yes. So we do have a BAA signed with Microsoft for just O365 in general. But the long answer is there's a but. And so when you create a survey in Microsoft Forms, the survey, while the data you collect is protected in OneDrive or SharePoint, the survey itself can be sent outside of the organization by design. So it's, made so you could share it with whoever you need to, and, people can answer anonymously. But you should not put any sensitive information within the form or survey itself. So that's just something you should be very aware of when you are creating your form. The other thing is that researchers, if you're trying to create a research study, you may actually find more value in using a tool like Qualtrics or REDCap, for example, for data collection, because they just have features that are more useful for that type of research data collection. REDCap, for example, has some features where it integrates with EMR data. So again, it's not an easy answer. So the final answer is just to use caution. And if you are planning to create a research study, for example, that may involve sensitive information, I would highly recommend reaching out to our ARCH team that are part of our research informatics group in ITS. I've put their email on the screen, arch-support@med.cornell.edu. They can certainly give you some guidance on the best survey tool that is available for a particular study that you want to do. And just so you know, I will send these slides afterwards, so you don't have to rush to write down that information. I will share it in the follow-up email. So back to forms. All right. So to access forms, there's two ways to do it. You can log into your O365 account, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, o365.wild.cornell.edu. And then you would look for forms in the upper left waffle menu. It should show up. Or you could just go directly to forms.microsoft.com and it would take you right there. You'd still sign in with your seaweed and password, or your email and password. Okay, so we're going to move on to the demonstration, but I'm just going to double check if there are any questions. Anybody have any questions that I might be able to answer before we move on to the demo? I don't see any. No questions. All right, perfect. You're all itching for the demo. Let's do it. All right. I'm going to pull up my browser. So I've logged into forms.microsoft.com, and this is what my dashboard looks like. So let's go over that really quick before we even create a form. So here we've got two buttons at the top, a new quiz and a new form. And there's just a slight difference between the two. They both collect data. They both look like surveys. However, a quiz has some added features, such as adding a scoring option. So if you are giving a quiz and each question is 10 points, that's something you can add with a quiz that you can't do to a form. The quiz, like I mentioned before, it also lets you add comments to some of the answers so that people know why they may have gotten an answer wrong. And you can also create a math quiz within forms. I've never used that before, but when you try, it pulls up like a huge scientific calculator where you could put in, you know, all these functions and stuff. And I guess it's pretty cool. I've never used it, but that's something that, you know, is good to know if you ever do want to use the quiz option for forms. If you've never created a survey in your life and you have no idea where to start, there are these templates at the very top. So you see one for feedback, registration. You can always click on one of these to see a template essentially, so you don't have to start from scratch, and it kind of helps you build it, and you can delete and edit as needed, but at least you have some kind of guidance to start somewhere. I personally want to teach you how to start one of these from scratch so you just know how to do it. And if I scroll down a little more, this is a list of all of the surveys or forms that I've created within Microsoft Forms, and they are categorized by the most recent I've opened. My forms is just, again, every single one I've created. I can see filled out forms, which I don't have, forms that are shared with me. No one is sharing a form with me right now, but I can also pin some of my favorites. So if there is a survey that you access quite frequently, you can always pin it by going to your forms, and you can hover over any one of these and 3 dots will appear. And you can also, well, this one I've already favorited, but you can favorite it if you haven't already. You can also see that you can move it to a group, meaning a Teams group. So if I wanted to share a survey with a group that I'm part of, I can do that right here and click on it, and that survey will move into Teams. So that's just one of the integration parts that I've been talking about with O365. I can also delete any survey from here, and it goes into my recycling bin right here. I believe it stays in the recycling bin for 30 days, but Josh, please feel free to correct me if I am wrong there. I see a quick question. What are your thoughts on using this to populate a registry or directory? Does anyone have experience? And that I'll try to get to that at the end of the session. So let me start creating a new form. So we'll do a form first, okay? So you just have to click the big button and you're taken to a blank template essentially, and you just have to fill out each of the fields that are presented to you. So in this case, we just want to give this a title, right? So we know what it is. I'm going to create one called Pets Survey. And if I wanted to do a description of what this survey is, I can. I'm just going to do, I just want to know about your pets. All right, so there's my title and there's my description. And you'll notice that any field that lets you add pictures, for example, or images, will have this icon right here. So if I clicked on it, I could upload an image if I wanted to for my device, but I could also search from within my OneDrive account and also do an image search through Bing. And I could just search and pick an image, and it would show up right there as a very eye-catching header. So I don't want to add an image right now, but I do want to add some questions. So let me start there. So when I click add new, all of these options show up. And if I click this arrow here, there are more options. So these are all of the question types that are available within Microsoft Forms. So there's about what, 9? Okay. And there's also the ability to add sections. So if you have a longer survey, you could actually break it up and organize it a little more if you'd like. But you'll notice that while this isn't quite as robust as something like Qualtrics, if you've used that before, this basically gets the job done. I mean, a lot of surveys, the most popular question types are multiple choice and text answers. So, and you've got a few other things here like date, which I think are really good. But I think you'll find that most of what you need is right here in Forms. So let's do a multiple choice question. And you'll see right away that there are some fields that I can fill out, and I can just type in any question that I want. So I'm going to do you have any pets? So that's my first question. And you'll see that Microsoft is anticipating what the answers could possibly be. And while I can type them in right here, just manually, I can also just select what Microsoft has given me. And in this case, it's a yes or no question. So that's what I'm choosing. And that made life really easy. If for some reason for this particular question, there were more answers I wanted to add, I could just hit add option. And that adds more fields where I can just add in any answers that pertain to this question. In this case, again, it's just yes or no. I don't need them. So if I hover over any of these fields, you'll see a trash can icon. I can just delete them and I'm back to my 2 questions. You'll also notice here on the left-hand side, there's this kind of textured bar that just lets me click and drag the order of the questions. So if I wanted to do that, I could very easily just using my cursor. And again, if you wanted to add answers that have an image, you can click right there and add images that you need to. Right here at the bottom, I'll direct you here. I won't go into multiple answers yet. That's going to be for the next question, but you'll notice a toggle that says required. So basically, if you want to make any question mandatory, meaning a person cannot complete the survey until they fill out this answer or this question here, you can toggle this on and the person will see an asterisk basically telling them, hey, this question is required. You have to fill it out in order to submit the survey. And this is really important for lots of question types where you need to collect needed information, like maybe demographics, and you want to make sure that you turn that on. Right here on the right-hand side, we have more settings for question. And if I click on it, I have a drop down with even more options to customize my question. So depending on the question type that you select, these will change. So that makes sense. In this case, it's a multiple choice. So I can do a drop down, for example, for the answers if I wanted to. I could add a subtitle if I wanted more info associated with this question. I don't really need to do that right now. But I could do things like add branching, and I can even shuffle the options that are here if I wanted to. That might make sense for something with way more answers, but that's just something you can do, and I'll get into that as we get further down in this form. So let's add another question. We'll do another multiple choice, but change it up a little bit. Which pets do you currently have? So people can have a lot of pets, right? I've got cat. I mean, just hitting enter, we got dog, and you can see that Microsoft is giving me some suggestions here. Why not? We'll do bird, we'll do fish. But as we know, people can have crazy type of pets. They can have lizards, they can have snakes, they can have a chinchilla. Who knows? But I don't want to have a list of, I don't know, 40 animals. Who knows what they could have? So one really great thing about forms is that you can easily do an add other option. And this just lets people select this and then type in any other pet that they may have that is not on this list currently. If we go back down here to this toggle that I didn't talk about here, multiple answers allow somebody to select more than one of the options here. So if you have pets, you could have a cat and a dog in your household, but right now I can only select one. If I toggle this on, you'll see that these radio buttons have turned into check marks, meaning that the person can now have more than one option selected. And you'll also see that this drop down appeared. So in this case, I don't want to put a limit on how many of these pets somebody can select. They could have a whole menagerie of animals in their house for all I know. But if you wanted to have a question type where you ask somebody to maybe select their top 3 answers, for example, you can place a limit on that right here in this drop down. I would recommend that anytime somebody can select more than one option, to make that very clear in the question with something like select all that apply. It's just so it's obvious. Like, not everybody realizes that the radio buttons mean you can select more than one option. So just make it easy for everybody. And if I click here, you'll see that I've got the same options here. I'll get into branching at the very end. Let's do a different type of question. We'll do a text question. We'll just ask, what's your favorite animal? And we'll let them put whatever they want in this case. As you can see, there's a different little toggle here called long answer. That is perfect for essay questions, for example. And if I click on it, you'll notice the field has gotten larger. That just means the person can add a little bit more text to it. If I click here, you'll notice that there are some different options to customize this particular question type. If I click on restrictions, for example, there's this drop down here with all of these parameters. And what does that mean? For example, let's say instead of what's your favorite animal, I asked, what is your exact age? And I wanted them to type it in. In this case, I want them to type in a number, correct? So I can add that restriction here where I just want a number in that field. And if they try to add anything else, Microsoft Forms isn't going to let them. It's going to say, put in a number, right? So that's what this restrictions field does. It just allows you to have parameters where you can get the exact data that you are looking for. In this case, I don't really need it, so I'm going to uncheck that. And then I'll just add one more kind of fun question. I'll do a rating. I'll just do, how are you feeling today? And I've got 5 stars, right? If I look at these 2 drop downs, levels tells me how many of these stars I can have. It goes up to 10. That's a lot of feeling for me. I will keep it down to 5. I want to keep it basic. And I can even change the symbol here to any of these shapes. I like the smiley face, so we'll do that since we're talking about feelings. And if I go into my settings, for something like this where there's a scale, it's really important to add labels because this doesn't mean anything to the person on the other end taking the survey. So our scale is maybe bad to great, all right? And that is our survey. So we want to see what this looks like, right? Before I test it out, remember here, I talked about branching. So I have this question, do you have any pets? And then a follow-up question, well, what pet do you have? But if the person answers, no, I don't have any pets, question 2 is a little pointless, right? Why would they answer that? They don't have any. So this is where the branching comes along. So let's go back here to our options and we'll add branching. And branching takes you to a new screen where you can add branching to any of these questions. But right now we're only concerned about question 1. So if somebody says, do you have pets? And they answer yes, I would like them to go to the next question. However, if they say no, I can actually get them to skip all the way to question 3 to answer what's their favorite animal. And they won't even have to worry about question 2. So that's how branching works. It's a lot simpler in Microsoft Forms than it would be in, say, something like Qualtrics. But I think for the most part, it does a lot of the same things. So we're going to go back. And our survey is pretty much done. So the next thing you want to do is preview it to make sure it's working the way you want. So right here at the top is a preview button, and it shows you what your survey is going to look like to the other person once you send it out. And you can see what it looks like on a desktop computer and on somebody's phone on their mobile device. So you can take a quick look just to make sure everything looks good. You'll also notice here on the top right and through all of these questions, there's this little icon of a book with an audio sound bite on it. And that is some accessibility that's actually been added into Microsoft Forms. And if somebody clicks on it, if they have low or no vision, they can actually have a reader read out the question or any of the text to them. So it's just kind of a cool feature that is added to these surveys. So we want to test that this works. If I say I have pets, perfect. Question 2 shows up and I can answer it. And there's my scale, bad to great. If I answer no, okay, perfect. So that first question 2 is gone and it just skipped to what is your favorite animal? So again, really important to always preview your surveys to make sure that they are working exactly the way you want them to. And if I hadn't been explaining how this worked to you, this would have taken me, I don't know, 5 minutes to do. So that's kind of the beauty of Microsoft Forms, really quick. If I wanted to change up what this survey looked like, I could go into style, and I won't spend too much time here, but there's lots of really cool backgrounds and colors that you can choose from to maybe make your survey a little more eye-catching. You can also add background music. I've never done that, but hey, if you want to add a little bit of a mood or theme to your survey, you definitely can. If I go here to these 3 dots in the corner, this one is really important, okay? More form settings. So if you want to share with anybody this survey so they can test it out, provide some feedback, you can add some collaborators here, and you can share a link with anybody outside of O360 with an O365 work account, so they don't necessarily have to be within Weill Cornell. You can limit it to just sharing it with people within the institution and even just specific people within the institution. So again, that's where that whole, you can send this survey to anyone comes out. And you can also share this as a template. If I go back into my options, and I go into the settings. This one's really important because it determines exactly who gets to take your survey and what the experience is going to be like on their end. So in this case, I want anybody to respond because it will be an anonymous survey. It doesn't require sign-in. Anybody can take it, and I won't know who answered, but I will have all the data collection. So I can limit it to only people in Weill Cornell if I wanted to, and I can actually record their name because once they sign in with their CVD and password to access their O365 account, Microsoft Forms can capture that. And that's really important for something like a quiz, for example. If you wanted to use Microsoft Forms for that, you can easily collect their data. You don't have to ask them to type in their name or anything like that. Microsoft will grab that for you. And you can also just limit it again to specific people at Weill Cornell if you want. In this case, I just want it to be anonymous. For a survey to be active, you have to make sure that this is checked, accept responses. If you want to close the survey, you can just uncheck that and the survey will be closed and not be collecting any more data for you. You can also automate a start time and an end date. So if this survey was going to end next week at midnight, I don't have to log in at midnight to turn it off. I can just put an end date here and Microsoft will close it automatically for me. I can also set a duration of how long somebody has to fill this out. Again, this might be more appropriate for a quiz rather than a survey, but you can do that here. And there are so many more options here. You can shuffle questions around. You can allow people to save their responses or edit their responses before they submit it. So definitely, again, that's under these 3 dots right here, more form settings. And then right here, the settings gear icon. That's how you kind of change the experience on the other end for the user. When you're ready to finally send it out, you could go here to collect responses. And there's a few ways that you can do it. Again, you can decide who gets to respond, and you can do it through a link that you can copy right here. You can invite people through your O365 account. You just type in their names. And another thing about integration, again, you could send it through Outlook or Teams really easily by just typing in people's names within the institution, and they'll get a link to fill out your survey. You can also do a QR code. So you could download a QR code, add it to a PowerPoint presentation, add it to a flyer somewhere. It doesn't matter. That's just another way that you can share the link to your survey. And then you can also grab some HTML code and pop it on a website if you need to. So those are the ways that you would share your survey with people. When it is time to collect the data, well, before we do that, let me go to quiz really quick. If you were going to build a quiz, I just want to show you the differences really quick. So this is a multiple choice question. Let me ask really quick, what do you call a group of crows? And I'll do a few options here: a murder, nation, and then okay, so a group of crows is called a murder. And so I have the option to do a correct answer. So when people fill out my quiz, if they don't get this right, they won't get the points that I allot at the bottom. Let's say I have 10 points for this particular question. And as I add questions and add points, Microsoft is going to tally that up at the top to let people know the total number of points they can get for this quiz. There's also this talk bubble here that lets me put in a comment. How I mentioned before, you can add comments. So once somebody submits the survey or quiz, you can add notes about how you did. So assassination is really close to murder. So maybe I add a comment like, "Ooh, so close," right? And you know, they tried. And if I wanted to, let me do another multiple choice. There's this option right here, math. I'm not really going to get into this. I mean, I'm an English major. I'm not going to do the math for you. I'm really sorry. But if you wanted to do a math quiz, you'll see this little formula option right here, and it pulls up a scientific calculator to where you can add answers with any of these symbols and things like that. But somebody can fill out this quiz, get the points, and it works similarly to how you would do the form. It's just got a few more features in it to make it something that's scoreable and can give you answers. So once you have created your form or your quiz, you can go back into your dashboard and see how people actually responded. So I have 2 forms here. I'm actually going to go to my favorites. So this is a survey. and 15 people have responded right here in the corner. This is actually pulled. I'll share this with you in the follow-up email if you want to take it, but this was actually taken from a really comprehensive, amazing survey that the New York Times did a few years ago, where you would answer questions about how you pronounce or say different things, and it would point you to a region on the map, on the US map, of where it thinks that you're from. It's actually really cool. I will share it with you, and hopefully you don't hit a paywall. But for example, what do you call this? Do you call it soda, pop, Coke, or a soft drink, or even other, right? Just a few really cool questions like that. And I really, when I share this with you, if you call when it rains and the sun is shining, the wolf is giving birth, I need to know where you live. Like, where do they say this? I have to know. I feel like it's so interesting. But anyway, I digress. You can click the responses tab and it gives you these very quick visualizations of how people have answered your survey. So in this case, it looks like most people are picking soda for what do you call like a fizzy beverage. But you can see other answers, and you can see that other people have typed in an other answer. If you want to see what that is, you go to more details, and it looks like somebody put in a fizzy drink. That's what they call it. That's cool. And you can go through all of the questions and just kind of see how people are responding. Nobody says the wolf is giving birth. I'm sad about that. You can also see at the very top the total number of responses, how fast people can actually fill out this survey on average, and that it is active, meaning it's collecting information. If I go to view results, you can go through each response individually if you'd like to and see how that one particular person answered, even if it's anonymous, right? And if I wanted to download the raw data that I could, manipulate even further, I can actually download this as an Excel file and get all the data. And if I needed to do visualizations there or analyze further, whatever I need to do, I've got that Excel integration, which is really nice. And I can just pull it up and look at the answers from there. If I go here to these 3 dots, Microsoft really likes 3 dots, I can delete all the responses if I want to. And I can even share a summary link. So if I've got somebody on my team who wants to know, how this is going, how the results are going, I can share this link with them and they can see the real-time results. I don't even have to worry that they'll have access to my survey where they could accidentally change something. This is just to share the results with them. And, they can be on top of things without you having to maybe be like the bottleneck, I guess, in this case. Let me show you what a quiz looks like really quick. So this is a collective nouns quiz. So I had kind of started one. What do you call a group of crows? What do you call a group of ferrets? It's actually a business. I really wish it was a wiggle. I made that up. And then what do you call a group of domestic cats? So this is actually a text answer where you can add like any correct answers to type in. You can collect or select more than one right answer if you want. But in this case, a group of domesticated cats is called a clouder. Fun fact, a feral group of cats is called a destruction, which I feel really is for all cats, but whatever, the person missed the mark, whoever is naming these groups of animals. But if I go into responses, so a few things are different. You can actually see the average score of everybody who's taken the survey or the quiz. So in this case, it was a total of 30 points. And right now I've got an average of 12.13. Again, same things. I can see the visualizations here. It looks like somebody called a group of cats a consortium, which I really like, and Fancy Clan. Those are actually my favorite answers. And if I wanted to post the scores, I can do that in a quiz and not in a survey. So post scores means that if you've taken my quiz and then I post your score, you can click on the link again later, the same one you used to take the quiz, and it will show you what your score is and how you did. You could see any comments that I left as the person who created the survey, yada, yada, yada. So this is how you can use Microsoft Forms to just quickly put together these surveys and these quizzes. Really quick, I want to show you some integration with Teams. So this is a test group I'm part of, and hopefully people in this test group are not like, what is she doing? But if I start a new post and I click the plus symbol here, you can see that Forms is part of Teams. And if I click on Forms, I can actually just create a poll right here. I think I'm limited, unfortunately, to just multiple choice within Teams, but I can quickly create a poll question, and do a little bit of customization. And then once I share it, there's one already saved in this group right here. Somebody was asking about Teams versus OneDrive versus Outlook, and that person could see the responses. And if I go back to my Forms account, all of these quizzes here, like with these very hard-hitting questions, like should burgers and hot dogs be considered sandwiches? You'll notice that there is like a bar graph icon here. Those are actually all polls that I created within Teams or within Outlook, just kind of testing things. And all of those results will be stored within my Forms account. So it's a kind of a nice central location for all this integration to store all of the data that you have collected. So that was a lot in a nutshell. That is Forms. I'm going to go into the chat just to see any questions that are, I see there's a lot of questions, but I also see that Josh and Raphael, thank you so much, have been answering quite a few. So Adrian, yes, you will get the recording after the session's over. I will email everybody, whatever email address you use to sign up for the session, that's where it's going. Is text formatting possible, or is text entry plain text only? So Josh replies, you can format your questions, but the responses, I believe, are in plain text only at this point. Yes, so I've also run into that. It looks like the responses are only in plain text. What happens if you put a required question into a branch that may not show to everyone? Will you get an error because someone didn't complete a question? So I believe Josh answered that, but yes, so basically, if you have a required question, but they don't see it in their branch because you've kind of taken them somewhere else, it won't block them from completing it. Basically, if they don't see it on their screen, it's not going to affect them completing the survey. But good question. So Natalie, yes, you can go to o365.wild.cornell.edu or forms.microsoft.com to go into your Microsoft Forms account. And I'll share that in the follow-up email too, just so everybody has it. So there is a question in the chat from Katie about automatic reminders, and Josh has brought up Microsoft Power Automate, which lets you do some of those automated workflows that could be integrated with Microsoft Forms. I will add some links on how to do that because unfortunately I don't have a lot of time to show that, but I'll be sure to put it in the follow-up. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, you can, test it out with your next form and Power Automate features. Oh, yes, Chris. So you asked, is there a shuffle feature for multiple choice questions? So if I go back into one of these, actually, let me go here. This is a multiple choice. If I go here into more settings, there is a shuffle option. So anytime somebody takes a survey, it will look different. It will shuffle the answers around so it doesn't, have the same order. So yes, that is an option that is available. Oh, you are in northeastern Turkey if you say the wolf is giving birth on the mountain during a sun shower. Thank you. That is a good piece of information. I learned something today. How do I save data to SharePoint, or is Personal Forms the only landing site? So all of your data is actually stored within your account here. And you can access it from your Forms account. And technically the data is stored within like your OneDrive, but you can always access it from here in your dashboard. Can you create a form so that each person's response is shared with you or emailed to you separately? I believe, let me go here. Hold on. If you go into the settings, was there something? So you can get an email response in your settings anytime somebody does complete your survey. So yeah, you can get notified anytime it's completed, Tyler. It's right here. I'll show you again. Here in the 3 dots on the top right, next to present, go to settings, and it's all the way at the bottom. Get email notification of each response. Are there any other questions I might have missed? Or Josh, did you want to bring up anything that I might have missed during the demonstration?
No, that was all great. Thank you so much. The only thing that I like to also discuss on that email notification is it only emails the creator of the form. So if you do want to email like a team or something like that, you'd have to go to the Power Automate step. Um, and other than that, I think it was great.
Awesome. Thank you. So yes, thank you for that clarification. So this will only email you, the creator of the survey, if once somebody submits the whole thing. So just give a minute to see if we have any other questions. Again, I really appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit about Microsoft Forms today. We do have some other Tech Tuesday recordings of other survey tools we use, so I'll be sure to include links to those as well in the follow-up email, so you can do some quick compare and contrast and see what might work best for whatever project you've got next. But I feel like once you start using all of our survey tools, you'll kind of end up using all of them. Like I didn't expect to pull up a different one each time I wanted to try something different, but here we are. So if I have a glitch in creating a form, can I reach out? Yes, so you can contact support. They can definitely help. I'll put that in the email, Adrian, just so you have it, or everybody has it rather. But it looks like we don't have any more questions. Hold on, maybe we do. Is RedCap a free service? Israel, I think that there is a free version, but also one with paid features. I don't want to give you incorrect information, but if there's anybody on the chat actually that knows, feel free to put that. I will confirm though, Israel, and reach out to you just to let you know. But again, I think there's a free version and one with more. Oh, thank you, Chris. For RedCap questions, please email us at redcap@med.cornell.edu. Perfect. I'm going to email that to everybody. I really appreciate that, Chris. All right. I'll give it another few seconds just to make sure I didn't miss anybody's question. I think we got them all. Oh, another one popped up. Oh, thank you, Adrian. I enjoyed helping everybody. So hope you guys had a little fun. If not learning about forms and learning about the wolf is giving birth in the rain to describe a sun shower. But I think I'm going to wrap it up. Again, I'll be sending you everything in a follow-up email. And if you have more questions afterward, once you start using forms, you can feel free to reply to the email, and I'll definitely have some support guides there to get you started with using Microsoft Forms. But thank you guys so much. Special thanks to Josh and Raphael and also Chris for helping me answer some questions in the chat. I really appreciate it. But have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye.